Imagine wearing a mask so tightly and for so long that when you finally reach up to pull it off, you realize it's literally fused to your skin.
Oh, that is such a terrifying visual.
Right. The fiction has basically become the reality, and the face underneath is just gone. Today we are diving into a cinematic behemoth that asks this really dark question. If you pretend to be a monster for your country, do you eventually just become that monster?
Yeah, and it's a question that has completely hijacked the cultural conversation lately.
Exactly. We are unpacking the cultural, economic, and, well, the psychological phenomenon that is Dhurandhar, the revenge.
And we're doing this by looking at a remarkably comprehensive piece of source material. We have this 4,000-plus word analytical breakdown.
Which is massive.
It really is. It doesn't just recap the plot. It actually dissects the filmmaking mechanics, the psychological profiling of the characters, and, the underlying architecture of how a film achieves this crazy level of cultural saturation.
Yeah, it's an incredibly granular look at the movie, and the timing for this specific deep dive is entirely by design.
Definitely.
If you are listening to this right now, it is because Dhurandhar, the Revenge, has just wrapped up this record-breaking theatrical run. I mean, it pulled in an astronomical 1,800 crore worldwide.
Mind-blowing numbers, really.
Truly. And now it is making its OTT premiere this week. The major launch event is on June 4th. Streaming begins in India on June 5th. And a completely uncut extended version is actually already sitting there on Netflix for international audiences.
Right, so millions of you who didn't endure the grueling 4-hour theatrical experience are about to press play from your own living rooms.
Yeah, and that transition from the communal theater environment to the isolated living room viewing experience, it's going to trigger a massive secondary wave of cultural analysis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because when you can pause, rewind, and really study the frame, the conversation naturally shifts. It moves from the sheer spectacle of the movie to the deep psychological underpinnings of the story.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to go from a raw, staggering statistic like 1,800 crore to understanding the actual beating heart of this narrative, we need to look at the mechanics of the film itself.
We do, but we should probably throw out a disclaimer first.
Yes, very true. A very clear disclaimer. We are dealing with a text that dissects cross-border intelligence operations, terrorism, entrenched government corruption, and geopolitical manipulation.
Those are incredibly volatile themes, and the source material treats them with a very specific, intense lens.
Yeah, and our job here is to explore those themes impartially, exactly as they are laid out in the analysis in front of us. We are not endorsing any political viewpoints, and, we're not taking sides on the real-world issues mirrored in this fiction.
Right, we're just analyzing the art, the narrative construction, and the psychological theories presented in the text.
Exactly. Furthermore, if you're planning to go into that OTT premiere completely blind, you need to hit pause right now. This deep dive contains massive structural spoilers.
Oh yeah, we are going to deconstruct the entire 4-hour arc right up to the final devastating frame.
So consider yourself warned. Let's start with the physical footprint of the film, because understanding how this movie was consumed is critical to understanding the art itself.
Yeah, our source breaks down what it calls the anatomy of a behemoth. We are talking about a project directed by Aditya Dar that demands nearly 4 hours of your time.
Which is just a huge ask these days.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it carries a hard adult rating for brutal violence. It features a massive ensemble, cast Ranveer Singh, Madhavan, Arjun Rampal, Sanjay Dutt.
Such a stacked lineup.
Yeah, and despite every conventional metric suggesting a 4-hour, violently brutal film should alienate mainstream audiences, it became one of the highest-grossing Indian films in history.
Right, and if you're a standard box office analyst, you might be thinking, wait, 4 hours? People complain about a 2-hour movie being bloated.
Exactly.
How does a studio convince people to sit in a dark room for a third of their waking day? Well, our text isolates 5 specific mechanics.
Let's hear them.
First, Ranveer Singh's transformational performance. Second, the overwhelming, immersive scale of it all. Third, a marketing campaign built on absolute secrecy rather than overexposure.
Which is rare nowadays.
Super rare. Fourth, a pre-existing fan base from this cinematic universe. And fifth, the sheer cultural demand for event cinema.
I really want to focus on that phrase, event cinema, because it entirely explains that 1,800 crore figure.
Yeah, it's not just expensive tickets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That number isn't just a reflection of high ticket prices, it is a reflection of a cultural mandate. In an era where, our media consumption is dictated by 15-second algorithms and dual screen viewing, the source notes this paradoxical hunger for total immersion.
Right, like we want to be forced to pay attention.
Yes. Aditya essentially engineered a cinematic hostage situation. By making the film 4 hours long, he signaled to the audience that this wasn't disposable content, it was a commitment.
Releasing a violent, emotionally draining 4-hour movie in today's fractured attention economy is it's like serving a complex, incredibly spicy 10-course tasting menu to a public that usually stands in line demanding cheap, fast food.
That is a great way to put it.
Right. It absolutely shouldn't work. But it did, because people actually wanted the spice. They wanted to feel overwhelmed.
But the source text also doesn't shy away from the criticism, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it's balanced.
It points out that many felt the pacing dragged, that the editing could have been tighter, and that the spectacle occasionally drowned out the nuance.
The critique is totally valid, but the text offers a fascinating counterargument. The sheer ambition of the project bought the audience's forgiveness.
That makes a lot of sense.
When a director builds a narrative cathedral of this scale, the audience is willing to overlook a few uneven bricks because they are so busy staring up at the ceiling in awe.
Yeah, and that ambition is most evident not in the massive action sequences, but actually in how Dar chose to start the film.
Oh, this is where the movie pulls its first massive bait and switch.
Totally.
You expect an 1,800 crore action epic to open with a deafening set piece, right? A chase, an explosion, something to immediately justify the ticket price.
But it doesn't do that at all.
No. The text details that the film opens with agonizing, suffocating tension instead.
Yeah, it employs the classic Hitchcockian bomb-under-the-table theory. We don't see the explosion, we just know the timer is ticking.
The dread is palpable.
Exactly. The narrative opens in the deeply fragmented, paranoid world of Indian intelligence. Analysts are staring at disconnected data points. Sleeper cells are going dark. There is a palpable dread of an impending catastrophic attack.
And the locus of all this terror is a single phantom named Hamza Ali Mazari.
Right, and the source describes the buildup of Hamza as almost mythological. He is presented as this brilliant, unpredictable operative rapidly climbing the ranks of cross-border criminal networks.
The intelligence agencies are absolutely terrified of him.
And so the audience is bracing themselves to meet this ultimate cold-blooded villain. And then the film rips the rug out.
Hamza Ali Mazari is a complete fabrication. His real identity is Jaskrat Singh Rangi.
And the text highlights this revelation as the exact moment the film transcends its genre. It stops being a standard geopolitical spy thriller and collapses inward into a deeply intimate, psychological revenge tragedy.
Because Jaskrat isn't a trained killer. He's not a sociopath.
Not at all. When the film flashes back, we are introduced to a remarkably ordinary young man.
The contrast is so jarring. Jaskrat is deeply emotional, fiercely patriotic, and his entire universe revolves around his family. He has no grand geopolitical ambitions.
But that ordinary future is violently ripped away in a coordinated, brutal attack that massacres his entire family.
Yeah, and the text notes that the director refuses to sanitize this sequence. It is designed to be deeply uncomfortable, forcing the audience to witness the systematic eradication of innocence.
But the physical violence of the attack isn't the true catalyst for the creation of Hamza.
It really.
Yeah, the psychological breaking point, as the analysis points out, is the aftermath. It is the deafening silence of the bureaucracy.
I found this part of the analysis brilliant because it challenges the standard origin story. Usually, a hero or an anti-hero is born because they want to stop a specific villain from doing a specific evil thing.
Right, the bad guy does something bad, the good guy goes after him.
But here, the systemic failure is the actual antagonist of the first act. No one is arrested. No one claims responsibility. The judicial and investigative systems just shrug.
It's chilling.
It's like treating a severe, life-threatening infection with a cheap Band-Aid. The surface looks quiet, the hospital says you're fine, but the bacteria is just mutating underneath into something entirely unstoppable.
And that systemic apathy creates a moral vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. Into that empty space steps R. Madhavan's character, a high-ranking intelligence officer.
Oh man, his introduction is so dark.
The text zeroes in on the predatory nature of their initial interaction. Jaskrat is clumsily, desperately trying to investigate his family's murder on his own, which flags him in the system.
Right.
When Madhavan's character observes this broken, grieving kid, he doesn't see a victim who needs counseling or a citizen who deserves justice. He sees raw, unrefined, weaponizable grief.
He sees an asset, and the moral compromise here is chilling. He doesn't recruit Jaskirat to be a standard agent with a badge, a pension, and a support team.
No, not at all.
He recruits him to become a ghost. He propositions Jaskirat with a deep cover operation where the very concept of Jaskirat Singrangi has to be permanently erased.
And the analysis spends a significant amount of time on this concept of the ghost operative because it defies normal military logic.
How so?
Well, to become a ghost, you undergo a psychological death. You aren't just memorizing a cover story, you are systematically dismantling your own ego, your memories, and your moral boundaries, so that a new artificial persona can be grafted onto your psyche.
Which brings us to the most critically acclaimed section of the movie, and really the centerpiece of the source text character analysis: the birth of Hamza and the descent into deep cover.
It's so well executed.
The film meticulously documents this erasure. Jaskirat's appearance is altered. His speech cadence is retrained. He has to adopt an entirely fabricated history, a new ideological belief system, and new daily habits.
And he doesn't do this for a weekend sting operation.
No, he does it for years. The text emphasizes the grueling duration of this cover. He is placed deep within ruthless, criminal, and extremist networks.
Right. He has to build trust with actual murderers. He has to participate in their world, observing, learning, and just waiting for the right moment to strike at the people who killed his family.
This is where Ranveer Singh's performance is dissected in the text, specifically focusing on the mechanics of his acting. The physical transformation is one thing, but the text highlights his eye acting.
Which is so crucial here.
Right, because how do you convey to an audience that you are a good man pretending to be a bad man, while surrounded by people who will literally skin you alive if they catch you breaking character?
You do it through micro-expressions. The text points out that there are long, suffocating stretches of the film where Hamza speaks very little.
Barely any dialogue at all.
Exactly. The storytelling is entirely visual, relying on the tension in his jaw, the deadness in his stare, and the micro-movements of his eyes.
It's phenomenal.
The director uses incredibly tight, claustrophobic close-ups to force the viewer into Hamza's psychological prison. You can see the agonizing pain, the suppressed rage, and the profound, crushing isolation swirling just beneath the surface of this terrifying persona he's created.
Let's pull on that thread of isolation, because I was trying to map this onto real-world psychology. There is a psychological concept called depersonalization, where prolonged trauma or stress makes you feel detached from your own body and thoughts.
That fits perfectly.
Imagine the sheer cognitive load required to never, ever slip up. Every time you speak, you have to filter your words through the brain of Hamza. Every time you react to violence, you have to react how Hamza would react, not how Jaskirat would.
Which has to be exhausting.
If you do this every single day for years, neuroplasticity dictates that your brain is going to rewire itself. The mask you put on for survival literally becomes your permanent face.
And that is the central thematic anxiety the text identifies. The constant gnawing question of the film is, does the fiction eventually override the reality?
Right.
The director uses the granular details of spycraft to manifest this anxiety externally. The dead drops, the encrypted communication, the constant threat of double agents. The atmosphere is just drenched in hypervigilance.
It's so tense.
The source notes that this is exactly how the film sustains a 4-hour runtime. It doesn't rely on constant explosions. It relies on the absolute exhaustion of paranoia.
Yeah.
Every conversation is a potential death sentence.
But a human brain cannot survive on high alert forever without snapping. You cannot exist in a vacuum of pure paranoia without losing your mind.
Exactly, and the film knows that.
The source notes the director knew the audience would be suffocating at this point, so he intentionally introduces a pressure valve. He gives Hamza an anchor.
And that anchor comes in the form of a journalist. In the midst of this brutal, cold existence, Hamza encounters someone completely outside the intelligence ecosystem.
A normal person, finally.
Yeah, and the text analyzes her narrative function carefully. She isn't just a standard romantic interest, she is a mirror. She looks at Hamza, and despite the terrifying reputation and the violent exterior, she detects the profound sadness underneath.
She sees the ghost of Jaskirat.
Exactly. She notices the scars that he thought he had perfectly hidden. And for a brief, incredibly dangerous moment, Hamza allows himself to be seen. He lets his guard down. He allows a genuine human connection.
Which is beautiful, but the analysis praises this choice because it provides the only warmth in an otherwise bleak film. while also pointing out the inherent narrative dread this creates.
Oh, the dread is off the charts.
Anyone who understands the mechanics of a spy thriller knows that happiness is the ultimate liability. It is a structural vulnerability. You are handing your enemies the exact weapon they need to destroy you.
And right as the audience is lulled into this tiny sliver of hope, the movie detonates its midpoint twist.
Oh, this part is wild.
And according to the text, it fundamentally shatters the entire premise of the narrative. Hamza finally uncovers the truth about the attack that wiped out his family.
Yeah, it wasn't collateral damage.
Right, it wasn't a random act of terror by the network he infiltrated. His family was surgically, intentionally targeted.
And the reason for the targeting is the absolute gut punch. His father, completely unknowingly, had stumbled across data related to a highly classified, totally illegal covert operation.
Which changes everything.
Powerful people within the very intelligence apparatus that Jaskarat now serves needed that information buried. And they were willing to slaughter an innocent family to ensure their secrets remained hidden.
The betrayal is coming from inside the house.
I want you to really think about the sheer mind-bending horror of that realization. You have systematically destroyed your own soul, erased your identity, lived among sociopaths, and endured years of psychological torture to avenge a tragedy.
Only to discover that the people who handed you the gun are the same people who ordered the hit.
Yes, it's so devastating.
The source text marks this exact revelation as the point where the film mutates from a tense espionage thriller into a frantic paranoia
The
thriller.
fallout is just instantaneous.
The structural integrity of the intelligence network collapses. Suddenly, secure safe houses are raided. Undercover assets start turning up dead. Massive, catastrophic intelligence leaks occur.
It becomes undeniable that there is a mole, and that someone very high up is manipulating the entire board.
Every single character we've met on the quote-unquote good side is now a suspect. Even Madhavan's character, the mentor who recruited him, falls under a massive cloud of suspicion.
Which is terrifying. How does a human being process that level of institutional betrayal?
The text argues that it completely breaks Hamza's internal compass, because his foundational motivation has been completely invalidated.
Right.
He was enduring this hell under the belief that he was an instrument of justice for his country. When he realizes the state is complicit in his trauma, his mission pivots.
And the analysis notes a distinct shift in his methodology here. It is no longer about gathering intelligence or protecting national security.
No, it devolves into pure, unadulterated, scorched earth revenge against everyone involved, regardless of what flag they fly.
He stops being a scalpel and becomes a hand grenade. And as he begins this rapid moral descent, the film makes a brilliant casting and narrative choice.
It really does.
It doesn't just let him spiral in a vacuum, it introduces a physical manifestation of his exact trajectory. It brings in the ghost of his future.
Enter Sanjay Dutt. Yes. The text dedicates a significant portion of its analysis to Dutt's character, a former deep-cover operative who is now a broken, hollowed-out shell of a man.
He's so tragic.
Years prior, he walked the exact same path Hamza is on now. He suffered a catastrophic loss, allowed vengeance to become his sole operating principle, and believed that inflicting enough violence would eventually act as a salve for his grief.
But the violence didn't heal anything. It just left him empty. The text points out a fascinating irony here, though.
What's that?
This is an 1800-crore movie marketed on unprecedented scale, explosions, and brutal combat. Yet, universally, the scenes highlighted as the absolute best in the film are just Ranveer Singh and Sanjay Dutt sitting quietly in a dimly lit room exchanging dialogue.
It's the contrast that makes those scenes so powerful. When you surround a quiet moment with deafening noise, the silence becomes the loudest part of the film.
That's a great observation.
Dutt's character serves as a Jungian shadow, a warning of what Hamza's rapidly becoming. He tells him, in no uncertain terms, that the revenge he is seeking is a mirage. It will not bring his family back, and it will permanently extinguish whatever humanity he has left.
But the tragedy of the film, as the text notes, is that Hamza is completely incapable of hearing the warning. The paranoia and the rage have completely insulated him.
We just watch his descent accelerate.
He starts flagrantly disobeying direct orders. He breaks protocols, takes wild, uncalculated risks, and begins employing the exact same brutal, sociopathic tactics as the terrorists he is hunting.
He is assimilating into the monster he was supposed to destroy.
Yeah.
And the true emotional climax of this descent doesn't happen during a gunfight. It happens in his personal life. The text points out that the real cost of his obsession is realized when the journalist, his anchor, his one tether to sanity, leaves him.
And she doesn't leave because of a misunderstanding or because she hates him. She leaves because she looks into his eyes and is genuinely, viscerally terrified.
Which is heartbreaking.
She realizes the man she saw underneath the mask is gone. The mask has eaten him alive. Hamza Ali Mazari has entirely consumed Jaskirat Singh Rangi.
That emotional severing hits the audience with incredible force because it demonstrates the collateral damage of vengeance.
Absolutely.
By obsessively seeking to destroy the architects of his pain, he systematically destroys anyone who dares to offer him love. And this internal corruption perfectly sets the stage for his confrontation with the actual architect of his misery.
Literally named the architect, Arjun Rampal's character is introduced as the true mastermind behind the cover-up. And the text notes how wildly he deviates from standard action movie villain tropes.
Oh, he is so far from the standard trope. The architect is not a megalomaniac screaming at his subordinates. He doesn't want a vault full of gold or a laser aimed at the moon.
Right, no cartoonish villainy.
Exactly. The source emphasizes his terrifying calmness. He operates entirely from the shadows, manipulating media narratives, global politics, and intelligence agencies with this clinical, detached precision.
He views human lives as data points on a spreadsheet. But what makes him genuinely chilling is his ideology. He isn't evil for the sake of being evil.
No, he actually has a philosophy.
He has looked at the global world order, at the governments, the agencies, the politicians, and he has concluded that the entire system is fundamentally irreparably dishonest. It is built on lies and exploitation.
So he thinks he's justified.
Exactly. Therefore, he believes his brand of orchestrated, violent chaos is not just necessary, it is a moral imperative to tear down a corrupt system.
It's a deeply cynical worldview, but the text argues it's what makes the conflict so compelling. The architect genuinely believes he is the only honest man in a world composed entirely of liars.
Which leads to the philosophical centerpiece of the film.
Right, a confrontation where the architect doesn't fight Hamza physically, but psychologically.
He looks at Hamza and basically holds up a mirror. He argues that they are not enemies at all, they are exactly the same. Both of them have been broken by profound loss.
Both of them have realized this system is a lie.
Yep. Both of them are completely consumed by rage and are willing to burn the world to the ground to achieve their definition of justice. The only difference, the architect argues, is the arbitrary geopolitical border they happen to be born behind and the uniform they were told to wear.
It is a devastating argument because purely on a structural level, he isn't entirely wrong.
Right. It messes with your head.
The text praises this scene because it forces the audience into a state of deep cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
You abhor the architect's methods and the slaughter he has caused, but for a terrifying few seconds, you understand his logic.
You see how the corruption of the state validates his cynicism.
Exactly. Understanding the monster makes the conflict exponentially more engaging than just watching a hero punch a villain until he stops moving. You are watching a battle of corrupted ideologies.
And the director takes this quiet, deeply unsettling philosophical realization and drops it directly into the center of the most deafening, spectacular action climax of the decade.
The source analysis details how the grand finale functions as a release valve for all the built-up tension. The scale here is what justified the event cinema label.
Oh, it goes huge.
The intelligence apparatus goes to full-on war. Deep cover sleeper cells across multiple cities are activated simultaneously.
Yeah.
We see coordinated raids, sniper sequences, and brutal, visceral, close-quarters combat.
The text even compares it more to a grueling war documentary than a stylized Bollywood action film.
Which is high praise.
And the brutality is the point. The director isn't trying to make the violence look cool or aspirational. He's making it look exhausting.
Definitely.
And amidst all this massive macro-level international chaos, the narrative brilliantly funnels down to a singular, intensely intimate micro-moment. The entire 1,800-core spectacle narrows down to one room.
It's brilliant.
Hamza finally breaches the final defense and stands over a broken, defeated architect.
The puppet master is finally out of strings. He is completely helpless.
This is the moment the entire 4-hour runtime has been building toward. The years of agonizing deep cover, the loss of his family, the loss of his anchor, the total erosion of his own soul, it all coalesces into this exact fraction of a second.
And Hamza's finger is on the trigger.
As a viewer, your adrenaline is just spiking. You have sat through 4 exhausting hours waiting for this cathartic release of justice. You want him to pull the trigger.
But the text points out that in this moment, The film looks directly at the audience and asks a profoundly uncomfortable question.
Are revenge, justice, and closure actually the same thing?
And the brilliance of the film's conclusion lies in how it answers that question. Hamza pulls the trigger. The architect is dead.
Right.
The man responsible for the massacre of his family has been executed. On paper, the operation is a total success. The intelligence agencies have won. But the source text emphasizes that the framing of this scene is completely devoid of triumph.
There is no victorious music swelling in the background. There is no slow-motion walk away from an explosion. It is framed as an absolute, irredeemable tragedy.
Because the true cost of this victory is tabulated for the audience right then and there. The collateral damage is staggering. Innocent lives were lost in the crossfire.
His relationship with the journalist is permanently destroyed.
And most importantly, the fundamental innocence of Jaskirat Singh Rangi is dead. It's burned to ash in the furnace of his own obsession. Hamza physically survives the final encounter, but his humanity does not.
He is just an empty vessel. He got exactly what he wanted. He killed the man who killed his family, and it left him with absolutely nothing. He didn't heal his grief. He just transmitted his violence.
The text concludes its analysis by asserting that the story was never truly about dismantling a terror network or defeating a geopolitical enemy.
That was just the surface layer.
Right. The plot was merely a structural mechanism for a grueling psychological test. Could Hamza navigate the abyss of revenge without losing his soul? And the film's answer is a resounding, devastating no. The source praises Aditya Dar for refusing to compromise the narrative integrity with a simplistic, flag-waving, happy ending. Instead, he forces the audience to sit with the heavy, sickening reality of what a life entirely devoted to violence actually produces.
It is a phenomenal bait and switch. You buy a ticket expecting a high-octane celebration of an invincible, hyper-competent super spy saving the day, and you walk out of the theater mourning the complete psychological destruction of a human being.
Powerful stuff.
It really brings all the threads of our analysis together perfectly. We started this deep dive looking at a raw statistic. An 1,800-crore box office phenomenon that sold itself on unprecedented scale, massive action, and star power.
But as we peeled back the layers of those explosions guided by the source text, we found a labyrinth.
Yeah, we found a tragic, intricate story about the malleability of identity, the long, suffocating shadow of untreated trauma, and the devastating, world-ending price of unchecked obsession.
It is a masterclass in proving that scale and substance are not mutually exclusive. Event cinema can still challenge an audience emotionally, philosophically, and morally, even while delivering unparalleled visual spectacle.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into Dhurandhar, the revenge, I want to leave you, the listener, with a lingering provocative thought.
Something for them to mull over.
Exactly. Something that wasn't explicitly stated in the source text, but is the undeniable ghost haunting the entire narrative. Think all the way back to the very beginning. Think back to Jaskirat, an innocent young man crying over the loss of his family, waiting for the authorities, waiting for the system to do its job.
Right.
If that system had simply functioned in that crucial moment, if the bureaucratic machine hadn't dead a grieving young man with cold, calculated apathy, would the monster of Hamza Ali Mazari have ever needed to exist?
The implications of that question recontextualize the entire 4-hour experience. It shifts the ultimate blame from the individual to the institution.
Who is the real creator of the villain? The broken, traumatized man who finally pulls the trigger, or the corrupt, indifferent system that hands him the gun in the first place? Something to really chew on.
Definitely.
So, as you fire up your screens this week for the OTT premiere, whether you are tuning into the launch event on June 4th, streaming it in India on the 5th, or diving into the uncut version on Netflix, keep these themes at the front of your mind.
Look for the micro-expressions in the eye acting. Watch the terrifying precision of the transformation.
And let us know, does the film live up to the astronomical hype for you when you watch it in the quiet of your living room? Where does it rank in your personal list of action thrillers? We want to hear your thoughts. Keep watching great cinema, keep questioning the narratives you were handed, and keep the conversation alive. We will see you on the next Deep Dive.